morning, everyone. I hope you and your family are keeping safe and well. I am Akhtar Hussain, Librarian IMT Ghaziabad and convener of this panel discussion. A warm welcome to all the participants. I am delighted to inform you that we have got participants not only from India but also from Philippines, Indonesia, UAE, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Saudi Arabia, other countries. Thanks to all international participants for joining this session. On behalf of the IMT Ghaziabad, it is my privilege and honor to extend a warm welcome to eminent panelists Dr. M.G. Sri Kumar, Professor Ramesh C. God, Dr. Anil Kumar, Dr. Akhtar Parvez, Dr. Rama Patnaik, and who have accepted our invitation to join and share their views in the discussion. I am thankful to Dr. Rajnandan Patnaik, Dean Academics, IMT Ghaziabad, and Professor Pooja Agarwal, Chairperson Library Committee and moderator of the panel discussion for gracing this event. Around the world, professionals are doing their best personally and professionally to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, COVID-19 pandemic raises many questions for libraries and their users. To answer all these questions, this panel discussion on designing sustainably agile and resilient library for a post-COVID-19 world has been organized where our esteemed panelists will provide insight in these issues. Discussion will be followed by question and answer. Hence, you requested to post your question in chat box. With this, I request Dr. Rajnandan Patnaik, Dean IMT Ghaziabad, to kindly extend a formal welcome to all the panelists. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Akhtar. Very quickly, I welcome Dr. Akhtar Parvez. He is heading the library of MANNU at Hyderabad. Dr. Anil Kumar, he manages the library at IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Rama Patnaik is managing at IIM Bangalore, the library. Dr. Sri Kumar is managing IIM Polycode. And Dr. Ramesh Kaur, he's managing a very difficult kind of a library and research resource from IGNCA, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. I extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to all of you. And I'm so delighted to have wonderful librarians from such good institutions in India that you can actually show others the path. How do we deal with the situation where you support the faculty to disseminate knowledge, to disseminate education? It's a, it's a very noble thing you do, but at the same time, it's a kind of a support that you're providing to the faculty without which the faculty will not be half the faculty what they are. It is so important that you support them online, you support them with their library resources, you support them with the research, and you also give them the confidence that it is possible to actually do things online and share resources online. And digitally, digitalization has already happened in libraries. You help each other a lot more, and now you can do it even more seamlessly. So it's a wonderful opportunity this COVID has actually brought to the library. And library always happens to the backbone of every institution. Now the institution can rediscover themselves, do something, go up the notch one or few notches up. And India, with the kind of population and with the kind of brains that we have, and if we can get together and libraries joining hands together, and LibNet and others, we have been doing it. But just imagine what it can happen. What can happen with this kind of an opportunity where we see each other and share each other's resources and experiences. So I have a wonderful discussion. I look forward to it. I expect our participants from different institutions to ask wonderful questions, and any questions that remain unanswered, we'll try to answer them after. Maybe we can take them offline or send a mail back or something like that. So we try to do the best, and I look forward to more of such series. And interestingly, I never ever miss any of the library webinars or any of the library seminars, because I still feel that library is what we are. Okay, so it's not a repository, it's what we are, which means it's a very dynamic and lively thing, and it's the heart of every institution. So we have to take care of that, and you have to take care of us so that we also make sense. Academic, I welcome you all. Thank you so much. So perhaps we can start the panelists. I think that's the format that we have to look at the briefings of every panelist, and then we can take question and answers. So, off to you. So, if you can very quickly invite the panelists, and we
Uh,
all yours.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your information about this. Now I invite moderator of this panel discussion, Professor Pooja Agrawal. Professor Pooja Agrawal. Professor Pooja is an associate professor in the area of finance at IMT Ghaziabad. She is also the member of Board of Governors at IMT Ghaziabad. She is a fellow chartered accountant and has pursued her PhD from Thapar University, Patiala. She has over 16 years of experience in academics. I must mention here, words can neither qualify or quantify how helpful your guidance and advice has been. Thank you so much for all your kindness, your encouragement and support. It has truly been an impression to work with you. I would now request Professor Pooja Agrawal to kindly initiate the proceeding of the day. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Akshay, for the kind words. Thanks, Dr. Patnaik, for taking out the time to be with us today. This is a very important event for us that we have so many eminent library professionals and the panel that we have here from wonderful places. So thanks, Dr. Patnaik, for being here. Now I would like to formally introduce all the panelists to the participants. I'll start with the ladies first. So I'll start with Dr. Rama Patnaik. Um, Dr. Rama Patnaik is a librarian from IIM Bangalore. She has PhD from Andhra University, and her thesis on marketing of library and information services in Indian libraries, present trends and future perspectives, was adjudicated as an excellent thesis by the School of Information Science, Michigan University in 2002. Her areas of professional interest are integrating technology and information services, current trends in management of electronic resources, creating resource guides with an instructional design using LibGuides, academic honesty and culture. I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Rama Patnaik. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being with us today. Then I would like to introduce Dr. Ramesh C. Gaur. He is the Dean of Library Information and Head of Kalanidhi Division at IGNCA. A Fulbright scholar, Professor Gaur is the first Indian national nominated as member International Advisory Committee UNESCO, member of the Memory of the World and member Cultural Heritage Program Advisory Committee of IFLA. He is a member of governing body of Shahid Sukhdev Singh College Business Studies, University of Delhi, and governing council and a member of governing council of many reputed organizations. Or rather serving member of over 100 plus library advisory committee of boards of many central universities and other institutions. He has received 14 national and international awards. Welcome, Dr. Gaur. I extend a very warm welcome to you. Thanks for being with us today. I would now like to introduce Dr. Sri Kumar. He is an adjunct professor in humanities and liberal arts in management and chief information officer of IIM Kozhikode. Sri Kumar is the chief architect of the Indian Business Museum at IMK, inaugurated and dedicated to the nation in 2013. Recently, he was nominated to the Global Advisory Board of the Cambridge University Press UK. In 2007-8, he served on sabbatical as visiting professor in the Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology at the University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Kumar has received the Ames International Outstanding Adjunct Management Faculty Award 2016. In 2014, he was awarded the prestigious Ratan Tata Scholarship to Harvard University for advanced research in Indian business. He is a fellow of the South Asia Institute of Harvard University. Welcome, Dr. Sri Kumar. I would request all the participants to please mute yourself. Inda, if you can help us in muting all the participants.
You are muted. So please unmute yourself. Pooja, you're muted. Can you hear us?
Technology and management trends in librarianship. He was invited under the prestigious International Visitor Program of the Department of State, United States of America in June 2001. He is the recipient of the Best Librarian Award 2014 by Taylor and Francis, Outstanding Librarian Award 2012 by Ames, by Special Libraries Association USA, and Best Librarian Award 2008 by Manlibnet India. A very warm welcome, Dr. Anil Kumar. Thanks for being with us today. Then now I would like to welcome Dr. Akhtar Parvez. He is a university librarian at Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad. Prior to joining the Central University, he was a librarian at IIM Indore. He was also the first appellate authority on RTI matters in IIM Indore. Dr. Parvez has a professional experience of working in prestigious institutions, both in government and private sector. These institutions include NCAER, the American Center USIS New Delhi, Delnet, India International Center, and ICRA. He is also the founder secretary of Manlibnet since 2000 and also serving as general secretary of the network. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. Thanks for being with us today. So we know that we have an eminent panel today and who have a lot of rich experience that they can share with us on how libraries can actually play a very vital role in today's world and post-COVID, that the lessons that we have learned from this situation of pandemic all over the world. Now, as a moderator, what I can just set the tone of the discussion. Now, when we normally say that, whenever we are in a doubt, we should go to the library, right? But this pandemic, this situation has taken away this physical space from us. But I must say that the library across the world have actually not made this felt by the users of the library by adapting very quickly to the situation and by providing us the requisite resources, the requisite data or requisite any kind of information that we require on our desktops, on our laptops, or to me by any way. So that's basically where the role of library comes in. Otherwise, had this not been the case, the academic process would have actually faced a break. But thanks to our libraries, that this kind of a break did not happen in the life of academic users, because libraries have been very, very apt to adapt to this situation, and they have been providing us the requisite resources that we use, and then we can make use of this time very efficiently in growing further and to make use of this time to further grow academically. Now, I would request the panel, and we will have a discussion on this, how this situation is going further, and what kind of lessons we will be learning from this, and how we are going to adapt to this situation. Everything we will have from the panel, the learned panel that we have. The structure of the discussion, I suggest, would be that we would be requesting all the panelists to share their thoughts with us for approximately 5 to 6 minutes. And then, of course, we will come back to each of the panelists again after we have the initial thoughts from them to again give their thoughts to us in the next round. And in the last, we will take the Q&A session so that we can actually, the panel can clarify the doubts which the participants are having and can take the best use of this panel discussion. So I would like to invite, first of all, Dr. Rama Patnaik to share her views on the role of libraries and in this particular situation. Over to you, Dr. Patnaik. Yeah, Dr. Rama, are you able to hear us?
Dr. Rama, please unmute yourself.
Okay, no issues. I think Dr. Rama must be facing some technological errors there. So we can start with Dr. Gaur. I request Dr. Gaur.
No, I think Dr. Rama is on now.
Okay, yeah. Great. So, yeah, Dr. Rama, we are just over to you.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts on an able and appropriate topic in these times. I'll not take much of the time, but briefly, as the topic goes, that agility and resilience, I think both are interconnected to each other. Audible? Audible?
Rama ma'am is having some technical issue.
I'm able to hear her as well.
Akhtar, you should ask your technical guy to mute all the participants.
కృష్ణారు కదా ఆచి దుకాణం కప్పుడు ఇలా మన పాత్ర
What disturbance?
Akhtar, can you tell Inder to look into this?
Participants, please mute yourself. All you cannot hear this panel discussion until you follow the discipline. Please mute yourself. It is important to do this panel discussion. Please mute yourself and don't unmute till all speakers finish their job. Please mute yourself.
Dr. Rama, can you please?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Because I can hear my own voice.
Okay, there's a lot of echo you are saying, huh?
Yes.
I think now it's clear.
Your mic. Yeah. Now it's clear.
Yeah, it's clear now. Yes, Dr. Rama, you're audible. So yes, you can please carry on. Yeah.
Actually, I think we must ignore the video part of it. If I'm audible, I will just allow me to speak. Let me start. As I was talking about the agility and resilience, too much of echo. Hello?
We can hear you.
Yes, you're audible. You're audible, Dr. Rama.
Yeah, you are all audible, but when I'm speaking, I'm hearing my own echo. I'll just disconnect from the I think the headphones, earphones. I think just disconnected. Okay. So if I'm audible, I'll just start.
Yes.
As I said, agility and resilience is an apt and appropriate topic in these times. Both are, of course, interconnected. If we have to employ the principles of agility for a library, I think I can look at the three aspects which are very important to call ourselves as an agile library. Is one of the significant thing is, of course, adapting to change, and also the three aspects is the user interaction. One of the things which is central to the existence of the libraries, and the technology or the resources that we use, that they're also heart of the core services that library engages in. And most important is your workflows. So how my workflows are latest and iterative as I as I evolve the policies on day-to-day base experience with the users. So whatever workflows I design for my end user services are not static. They are adaptable to change even every quarter or whenever a new idea crops up across the team levels. So for me, if we are very apt with our workflows and able to optimize the usage of resources that we purchase and put the user experience central to everything that we do in the library, I think that is where we can call ourselves agile. To give a brief example, maybe, which is very common to our library, is as a team, I think when most of the content is online and there's overwhelmed with the range of resources that we have, then I should have a proper system at place that makes the user experience more instantaneous and gratifying, rather than going to 100 desks and sending me 1,000 mails to identify a particular resource. So the processes that I have been developed in such a manner that in any kind of an emergency situation, my services, core services at least, are not affected by any external, disasters where the kind of that we are facing now as a complete lockdown. So when we were actually asked to shut down our libraries and all, the first thing that came to everybody's mind, including the dean and director, is how well or how robust is my online system, that when the physical library is shut down, then everything can get replicated on an online environment where the users are not affected, except of course the physical experience, the environment that they actually get it in library, the varied learning spaces, and usually we know that the information seeking behavior or the library space also plays a great role in defining the information seeking behavior of the users. So when we shut down, then we had this remote access facility at place. We ensured that everyone was registered and having the access, and our websites, our sites, whatever systems we had at place, they were mobile friendly. In case the users were not having access to desktop, they can actually navigate through their mobiles. Then we also thought that the physical library, though shut down, then we should enable a system where if somebody wants a book urgently for any of the personal research or even learning, then that book is made available. So we had a system where these things were at place, and most important that not suddenly this online sometimes users are also not so familiar using the online systems, but over a period of time we ensured that whenever there is a desk which is very responsive, and whenever the user comes to library for any query, we ensure that he has the exposure to all these resources where he can be self-reliant. That means in an online system, we can have things at place for basic level, information. But when it comes to seeking extensive information for research in more at a depth, then they should rely on library. I think we should build a system where most part of the basic services should be self-serve, and hardcore researchers where they also know where to find information. But in that case, where the
Pooja, Pooja, I think we seem to have lost Dr. Rama.
still responsive.
Yes,
No, she's there.
she's there.
Yeah. I think she's there.
Yeah, am I not audible?
Yeah, now you are audible. Yeah.
I think I
In
spoke.
between, we just lost your voice.
Okay, so as I was saying that the three core aspects of if you measure the scale of agility, as I said, the user interaction, the quality of user interaction, the processes that you have, and of course the technology that you use it, because most of the content, the current content that is acquired by libraries in form of databases, journals, and all, I think they constitute majority of your resources. So as I said, when this lockdown happened, the main question that arise to everyone, including the administration, was how well we were able to cope up with the situation where nothing is shut, so users don't experience any interruption in the services that they were experiencing, and the availability of the staff in responding to the users queries. We developed a guide for contacting us. We used the synchronous and asynchronous channels for reaching out to our users. We were available on chat 24/7, except for, of course, Sundays, and we also available on weekend, as I said. And there are multiple ways where we developed where the users could reach us for in case of any assistance they would need. And the scale of content that we had, especially the databases, e-journals and all, we need to have systems like Discovery, Journal Finder, and other important tools which actually expand the visibility of the content, where we make the users self-reliant for basic information requirements, and at advanced level only they should contact the library. So the system, the agility is not developed in a day when the lockdown happened. It was a gradual, it was very gradual. In a gradual way, we made our library agile to face any kind of this situation where this service to the online content, or maybe any, not only the online content, but interaction with the library staff is never interrupted. So I think I have taken most of the time with not being heard. So I just want to give opportunity to others to chip in, because I just lost the flow of speaking because of the audio loss.
Thank you, Dr. Patnaik, for sharing your views with us. So you actually kind of, shared with us that how challenging and how the situation was when everything was shut on physical mode, but more active on digital mode, right? So it was must have been challenging, but yes, I'm sure that the users have got the necessary support from the library, and then it did not, basically made them to pause for their academic requirements. Now I would request Dr. Ramesh C. Gaur to please share his views on how we can, make best use of this situation, and how we can make our libraries agile and resilient to these kind of situations.
Thank you, Pooja ji. Thanks, Akhtar. Thank you, Dr. Patnaik. Being a proud IMT, it is always pleasure to connect with IMT for any program, and so is today. It's an honor to all of you. My request to participants, please mute your mic. So you have very rightly chosen a theme: designing sustainably agile and resilient libraries for post-COVID. So let me say one thing: it may be post-COVID, it may be pre-COVID, it may be current situation. Whatever situation we are, we definitely need sustainably agile and resilient library services.
Ramesh, your voice is breaking.
Is it breaking? Is it clear now?
Yeah, it's okay. I think.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it is okay.
Okay. So it may be post-COVID scenario, it may be pre-COVID or current scenario. We definitely need agile resilient library services. Now these change management systems, it may be business process reengineering, it may be this agile, which is basically developed for software project management. Whatever we may call it, managing change is a crucial for any kind of organizations. And when we talk about libraries are considered organization within organization. So it has all the functions of a major organization. And change is inevitable. It may be changes due to internal factors, change may be due to external factors, and managing this change in an incremental way or in a radical way, it is up to you. It also depends upon the situation. It also depends on other factors, that how you are going to manage that change. I'm not a person who will introduce you these terminologies, agile or resilient, or all these terms used in this topic. I'm a practitioner, and my lifelong, in 29 professional years of my career, I've been engaged in transformation of libraries. It may be IMT Ghaziabad, it may be Jawaharlal Nehru University, or current organization at IGNCA or MDA Gurgaon. I always try to implement such technologies, such process managements in designing one of the best library services for my users. So let me begin with IMT Ghaziabad. In 1996, when I joined IMT Ghaziabad, there is hardly anything called library in place. There were small 2 rooms, classrooms. There was 1 professional staff. Even a basic instrument like this one was not available in the library. Forget about softwares or databases. Half of the collection was cataloged with column classification, half were with the DB, and when many of the books were not even classified catalog, there is no record, no way to know how many of these 10,000 books are, what are the kind of books available. So that was a situation where,
Clearly.
and now that forced me to think how to improve that situation.
Switch off your,
And that's come
you switch off your video.
idea in my mind. I read books by Michael Hemmer or James Champy, and I got the idea of re-engineering management.
Get out.
I thought radical redesigning of processes, which I had to start from the scratch, is the best way out. And I implemented the re-engineering management application in IIT Ghaziabad and totally redesigned the systems. And if you want to know more about, because we have very limited time, I cannot talk more about, I have published a book on engineering management process, what I did in IMT, you can go through it. So that's one example that here I have to apply an application which required radical redesigning of processes. So I did that. Take example of when I joined Jawaharlal Nehru University in 2012. The university like JNU was not having even a BABOK in place. There were areas which I identified where it required changes. Those changes were in terms of technologies. These changes were in terms of space management. Thousands of books were lying on the floor. These changes were in terms of user space. Against 7,000 students, only 300-400 sitting space was available. These changes in terms of number of vacancies in the staff. These changes in the kind of mutual trust relationship between libraries and the faculty and users. So when I did this transformation in JNU and I developed, redesigned the processes and designed the libraries, it may be implementing all kind of modern emerging technologies, maybe remote access, maybe discovery, digitizing entire thesis and collection in a time-bound manner and putting it online. It may be designing a good ambience, a good reading space, providing round-the-clock facilities and providing reading rooms where bring your own device culture need to be enhanced, where the every student and faculty have a charging point for the mobile and desktop. They can sit for as many other hours they want. It may be creating a forum like JNU Forum for Mutual Learning, for mutual understanding, engaging researchers by designing various kind of research processes, helping in enhancing visibility and designing of research methodology for learning in how to avoid plagiarism, how to detect it. So a kind of e-research environment was created. So this change, what we are talking here, it can in any area. And like when I was in MDI, Dr. Pritam Singh was a director. He was not happy with the space layout of the library. So I did some kind of modernization in the space management. So that was so these all are changes need based or based on certain internal and external factors which we can understand because of organizational needs, because of people's need, because of your budgeting or all kind of factors which is within your control. But when you have a situation like this pandemic, this is totally unforeseen. This is totally unplanned. This is totally unimaginable. So suddenly you are in a catch-22 situation where you are suddenly asked to close the library. You are suddenly asked to be at home and you have to work remotely. Now you have to work remotely to serve your users. You have to provide them remotely all kind of library services. So definitely we were not prepared for that. But I can tell you one thing. There are kinds of libraries. One who are already developed good tools and technologies, they can well cope up with this kind of situation. Those are all kind of anywhere, anytime access facility. They were having good digital resources. They were having good e-work resources. So whatever electronically or digitally, when libraries are digitally transformed, it is easy for them to provide to their users. And such libraries able to provide immediately. It may be using all those learning tools, but there are libraries which are lagging behind. Those are the libraries which are unable to cope up with the situation because they are not digitally prepared. They were not having that kind of understanding, that kind of technology. So when we are talking of designing sustainably agile and resilient libraries for post-COVID world, we are going to face other kind of situation also. Now we will be going to an entire new world. We never seen those requirement of having masks. There will be security and surveillance concern. We are going to work on sanitization.
Dr. God, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you again on that.
Just 1 minute. Last sentence. So we are going to see a lot of requirement of sanitization for social distancing, and that we need to discuss, and I can come back for that.
Yeah, because that's a different challenge, and everywhere we do not have digital libraries. Everywhere the infra is not that we have in urban areas. And so that's again a different challenge which requires a discussion on. But a good key takeaway from your discussion is that it is not only in this situation that we have to have agile and resilient libraries. That is required in all the situations. Every time we have to prepare for that. And as you said, you have been designing the world-class libraries everywhere where you have gone, including IMT Ghaziabad. So that's a wonderful thing. That we have come a long way from the point of time which you explained till today when we are having this kind of panel discussion in the digital forum from IMT Ghaziabad Library. So that's a long way that we have actually come. So now I would request Dr. Sri Kumar to share his views on how we can actually cope up with this situation in the library space and designing the agile and resilient libraries. Over to you, Dr. Sri Kumar.
Thanks a lot, Professor Pooja and Professor Rajnandan, Dr. Akhtar Hussain, and IMG for organizing this interesting panel discussion on designing sustainably agile and resilient libraries for post-COVID-19 world. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
You are
yes.
You're audible.
So I will thrust upon three major areas: the importance of being agile, and that will lead to resilience, and then the importance of the imperatives for digital transformation for libraries, and then I will thrust upon a little bit of the support for online teaching at this moment by libraries, because it is actually a need of the hour. So we have heard from Rema and Ramesh the need of being agile, and the kind of preparations, plannings, etc. that you do if you want to be really very brilliant a library. So the being agile is actually ability to be adapting quickly to the contingent situations. So we can see that agility, adaptability, and flexibility are interchangeably used in the in being agile, because it is very important to see your workflows and executions. As Rema was mentioning, you have to have a meticulous workflow in place, and which has to be flexible, and it has to be brilliantly executed according to the need of the hour. You cannot be very rigid on this. So if you just see that these libraries will have the ability to react quickly to threats, to make timely, effective, sustainable changes that generate competitive advantage. That is one thing which I would like to underline. And these libraries will have human resources with a shared vision, shared purpose, and will be more participatory in every mission against the age-old what is called the command and control models. So this phenomenon will cut across institutional hierarchies. That gives every member of the library a sense of belongingness and a self-motivation impact. That's very important, I feel. I think the head of the library will have a big role to play in this aspect. So all these go together to contribute resilience to the library as an organization. So I think the words agility and resilience are actually interdependent in that aspect. And now coming to the second aspect, which I would like to touch upon, is the library's imperatives for digital transformation. So if you look at the kind of functions and activities that we perform in our libraries, it can be broadly categorized as business processes and user experience services. So business processes involve collection development, metadata creation, collection management, content aggregation and systems integration, etc. Whereas user experience is our efforts to bring in a lot of discovery efforts, discovery systems, in terms of indexes, all that we do, in terms of other aggregation and integration service that we do with respect to getting a very impactful search and retrieval effect from the library's content. So as enterprising librarians, we need to envision our collections, services, spaces, and operations with the hope that this will inspire our users with the new thinking and knowledge curiosity, encourage learning and their quest for advancing knowledge. So this is very important. And this assumes greater responsibility for life. That our patrons like faculty, students, researchers, and in the case of, as Dr. Pooja was mentioning, in the case of other libraries, even the public, to be kept in confidence that their information and knowledge requirements are adequately met with, uninterrupted, at a time when we are disrupted, without having to come to the libraries physically. But as a practicing librarian, information professional, I'll be happy if my library is filled with the people. So that is the second aspect I was telling. And then the libraries, imperatives for digitally transformed libraries. So it is a technology-driven, digitally transformed library that we are planning because that is the way forward. That is what is giving us hope for the entire profession to sustain, entire libraries to sustain in the new world. So in fact, technology is the prime driver of new services and enabler of libraries. There is no doubt about that. But only one thing we have to remember, that technology will always change how we deliver our services. So if you look at what we have been doing 25 years ago, may not be the way we are doing. So the central essential truth of our mission will remain constant, though the modus operandi changes. So that is actually the essence of library services. So the present context, when you take stock of in the lockdown, we need to adopt a sort of forced digital transformation that is advocated, and that is going to shape the library's future. So, to put it briefly, digital transformation is about automating, transforming, and personalizing knowledge work. That's the most important thing. I think we should, remember this. It is all about automating, transforming, and personalizing knowledge work. So, how do we do that? Fundamentally, it is about automating the library's collections. It starts with our print and analog collections, their indexing, their metadata creation, search facilities based on our retrieval algorithms, etc. Maybe I will always recommend using open source softwares as much as possible. And then the e-resources. E-resources will constitute the digital collections that we have on site by virtue of our subscriptions. A licensed content available locally or internally generated knowledge such as the scholarship of the institute, we call it as the publication that the knowledge that is produced, maybe open access and OER, that is open educational resources that we have downloaded. So all on site, and then we have a large chunk of online content by virtue of our licenses and our subscriptions. So that these are the two things we need to aggregate and integrate. So it's a huge work, as my previous panelists were mentioning. It's a huge work, meticulously planned with very good workflows and brilliantly executed. That is actually the success of the digital transformation. So whatever be the kind of information and knowledge guides or navigation interfaces or discovery tools that we provide, it will all depend heavily on the depth of the metadata quality, the quality of the metadata and the search algorithms that we bring in. So we need to be always watchful. What are the new things? So we need to catch up with technology trends, the dynamics of the information science transformation, also in line with the user sentiments. This is the most important aspect, because users are always comparing our services with that of Google, that of Amazon, that of Facebook, etc., which we may not be able to match up with. So it's actually a big challenge, but it is not an impossibility.
Yeah, very rightly said, Dr. Srikumar. One thing which I liked about from what you said is that the basic essence of library remains the same. The basic motive remains the same. The modus operandi basically has changed from the earlier physical mode to now the digital mode. So, and the basic sense and that remains same, and that is to provide the full support to the user. But I'm sure that all the libraries that we have, they have really a great challenge, and then they have actually came up to the expectations also by providing the required support in this era when we require the digital support of the library. And one more thing, which is belongingness of the user, that is so important. That you really pointed out, and that is really important from everybody's point of view, that the belongingness is really important. So taking ahead I'll come back to you, and taking ahead from what you said, I would now request Dr. Anil Kumar to please kindly share his views and his way of handling and what he sees the future of library in this post-COVID and this COVID era.
Thank you, Professor Pooja. First of all, my thanks and gratitude to IMT Ghaziabad for having organized a very apt and relevant panel discussion. So, without taking much time, let me take the route of a devil's advocate and probably risk my reputation by saying that there is no need for libraries in the future. The way things are happening, whether it is COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, and all, these are all factors which will come and go. History goes on repeating. There are lots of challenges which has come. Libraries have faced it. They have overcome it. Whether it is a technology challenge, recession problem, all sorts of things. We can go on counting. The issue here is not of libraries which the panelists here are representing. I am more concerned of libraries which actually are not libraries. Right? In this country, how many new libraries can you count on? You cannot even count on your fingers. Good libraries that have been set up. If you look at the NIRF ranking, most of the institutions who are old get a better ranking, and the new institutions don't get a better ranking. So that means you need to. These are the organizations which have to grow with time. Now, the importance of a library. Why I'm saying that libraries may not be relevant is it's a little pessimistic view, but it looks like that's the reality because you look at the new education policy, you look at institutions being set up, you look at national level institutions, centrally funded institutions. There is no importance given to libraries. And we are just brushing under the carpet all this, by niceties by saying that library is the hub of an academic institution. University is a string of buildings around a library. I don't believe that because you don't see that happening. There are very few, I think maybe in the last 3 decades of my experience, I have seen not more than 10 institutions which have built institutions of libraries of quality in this country. So therefore, going by evidence, I can say that in future you will not find good libraries coming up. One is because I think higher education policymakers, teachers, administrators, deans, directors, all feel that I am yet to come across some policymaker of worth who can actually talk about why libraries required in higher education. You look at all debates, discussions, research, rankings. There is no mention of library as such. It's all indirect. Maybe in NRF they just ask you the budget, and that is the worst type of evaluation of a library you can do. If you have more money, you get more points. That is ridiculous. If you're looking at quality higher education, then you have to actually focus on what you're teaching and what is the learning process. And there is ample research to show that what happens in the classroom is only 5% of the learning that a student carries. In fact, I'm happy that COVID has brought about this sort of discussion to the limelight that why physical education is important, right? It is true that we have to move online, but the thinking and the discussion on why physical education is important, face-to-face education is important, is coming into the limelight. And I believe that once you understand why face-to-face is important, the experience that a student has on campus, the library plays a very important role. You show me any one policy paper of a non-librarian talking about the importance of libraries in this country or even abroad. I was just watching Vijay Govindarajan's video on higher education, challenges for higher education. And he was predicting that around 90% of these institutions will close down, universities in the US, there will be hardly 10% which will survive. So it goes on to say that the already reputed, already established institutions are the ones which will actually survive and innovate and create something new, and they will move online and things like that. But I would disagree because you cannot replace face-to-face. It's extremely difficult. The experience of it is like having virtual food. Can you have food virtually? You cannot. Education is like that. The physicality is important and is required. In that context, the role of library becomes very important. But unless we realize it is important, we are not going to do anything about it, right? So my first or the main general comment is, I don't think libraries are required going by the way the evidence shows us as of now. If you're asking for an opinion, libraries are important because it gives you quality education. If you are not bothered about quality of education, then I don't see why libraries are required. And this is one part of the story I thought that we should discuss on. The second part is, which my predecessors have already brilliantly put the points on the operations part of it. But from a strategic point of view, designing a sustainably agile and resilient library for post-COVID, it's required. Whether COVID is there or not there, this is required. And for a library, there are, I think, 3 things which are key. One and the foremost is the users and their need. If the user doesn't need you, whatever you do, it is required. And my hunch or guess is, again, I'll risk saying this, most of our libraries are underutilized. If you look at the student population and the faculty population and the type of resources we are investing in, the underutilization is a much bigger concern for richer libraries. The poorer libraries anyhow have a problem. It's a very simple thing, in this COVID situation, if you think, the poor are the most affected. The rich are not the ones that are affected the most because they can afford anything. Similarly, in institutions who don't have funds and libraries who are not given the importance and don't have funds are the ones which are going to suffer most. And I think most of them will close down. I don't think you can survive in an online mode because I was looking at even NRF, some of the rankings, the variation in the budget is so much. I mean, it is almost like 1/3 versus, in a good, even in good institutions, for example, IIMs. The budget varies like from 1 crore to say 15 crores. How can it be possible? You have the same brand, same type of education, same type of pedagogy, almost similar type of faculty, and you have such a, what does that mean? That means that you are not even bothered of thinking why this is there, this variation is there, right? So the second part, other than users and their need, is your content and collection, as Sri Kumar was saying. So you have to move online and build a robust collection, relevant collection. The challenge in collection is there is too much of information. And probably more than money, it is the skill set of the librarian which is important in accessing the resources. And third and critical, which nobody discusses and debates about, is the lack of leadership in libraries in this country. Actually, there are hardly few libraries, and I'm not talking about librarians who are on this panel or in a few elite institutions in this country. I'm talking in general, right? The leadership, there's a lack of leadership. Many of the institutions don't have succession planning. Most of the libraries who are good went down the drain because they didn't have the second line of leadership. And if they had, there were a lot of infighting and things like that. So it's a really pessimistic view that I am painting for the panel to discuss and for the participants to actually ask questions on. Do you have one more minute to?
Sir, we can, we would be, I'll be coming back to all the panelists because you are actually,
fine.
yeah, you are actually bringing out a very, very important and a very different line of, discussion that we must have. First thing that I could gather is that, first of all, that how much focus are we really giving to our library? Is it only that we are, saying that for the sake of saying that library is the heart of an institution, or we really mean it, or we really make our efforts towards it? So that's a very, very important point that you have really brought. And the another important point is that how are the new libraries being taken ahead, and how much budget an institute really allocates towards library. But one thing I really can say, because apart from being the chairperson of library committee, I also handle ranking in IMT Ghaziabad. Apart from NRIF, I have seen that all the rankings, they ask you the detailed data about library. They ask about how many books we have in the library, how much delta change that we have brought in the last year to this year. They also ask about the databases that we have actually added to our library base. NRIF has a different set altogether, the kind of information they ask. But otherwise, in all the other rankings, they ask us a very detailed information about library.
No, but yeah, you're right, Pooja. But just to correct you, none of them ask you the usage of a library.
Usage, yes, nobody asked, because it's very difficult to even map the usage.
You can look at your downloads, you can look at cost effectiveness, you can look at the services offered by the staff, how much of self-guides you have put up. There are ways. The problem is none of these rankings or
also the
bodies have library experts there. They don't know how to evaluate a library. Just because they don't
would
know,
not
they
be
should
having
not
the
say,
library experts. That's true.
Yeah, that's the issue.
True, sir. Fine. So with this thought-provoking, factor that you have actually brought in, I would like Dr. Akhtar Parvez to share his thoughts on our topic, and on if we can just throw some more light on the topic, that discussion brought by Dr. Anil Kumar here. Over to you, Dr. Parvez.
Thanks, Professor Pooja. Thanks, Patnaik Saab. Thanks, Akhtar Hussain, for the invite. And I was very happy to see when I was listening to Dr. Anil Kumar. The problem is of speaking at the end is that most of your things have been covered. So you have a big challenge when you have stalwarts like we have to in today's panel discussion. But what most of the panelists said is true, that we have no option but we have to go digital. And due to this unprecedented situation, what we see is that worldwide education has largely moved to online. So we see a lot of hype in software companies as if this is the only solution for future teaching and learning. And we witness a surge in the use of online, tools like Zoom, WhatsApp, Skype, etc. And libraries also have been doing a lot of activities through these applications with regard to the training of our students, making them understand about the use of library, etc., etc. But as Dr. Anil Kumar was rightly saying, that this cannot compensate for library experience or physical library experience. But I'm very sure this unprecedented situation will pass too, and we will soon have better times. Though I'm a very, very positive person, very optimistic, But when I see the education sector and libraries, I get little negative. But I think that is very, very important. If you see the 2017-18 National Sample Survey household data, you find that only 4.4% of the households have computers, and when you see urban households, there is just 23.4%. Similarly, I see internet connectivity also just 14.9% for rural and 42% for urban households. And only 50% of our population has smartphones. So how we will attend classes and of course other learning access. And for preparing our libraries to similar challenges in the future, I think our focus should be strengthen our electronic collection and of course necessary infrastructure to ensure access to knowledge. And we also have to ensure that our users also have similar kind of the infrastructure who are the ones who will actually receive the information. So the major challenge which I see is reaching the unreached, which Dr. Anil Kumar also touched upon. But unfortunately, I see huge disparity when it comes to equitable access to knowledge, especially to scholarly contents like journals, e-books, books, etc. Then we have internet connectivity, devices, erratic power supply. These are the issues. And unfortunately, our policies are also such which actually promote such disparity. Now, more than 50% of the central government's funds for higher education goes to just 3% of the students who are in IIMs, IITs, and NITs. And less than 50% of the funds goes to 97% of the students who are studying in 865 institutions of higher education. So imagine the situation of state government and colleges. Now, if you see the spending on education sector in last 4 years by the government of India, you see that in 2014-15, the total percentage was 6.15 of the total budget, which declined to 5.44, then 4.68, and then in 17-18 it was just 3.71. So I mean, how how we can really make our libraries sustained libraries or agile or whatever words we are using. I think I feel probably it just looks good on paper, but not otherwise. Now, one of my very close friends, Dr. Narendra Kumar, he did a small. Dr. Pooja, I'll just take one more minute. So he did a.
Sure.
So he did a small analysis of the textbooks which are prescribed in University of Delhi in 4 courses, namely BCom Honors and Pass Course or program, what you were saying, and then BBA, BMS, and it was found that the number of textbooks in the publishers database, one of the publishers database, which was on management, economics, business and management, economics, computer science, etc. So out of 462 books which are prescribed in the courses as references, additional reading, etc., only 8 textbooks were there in that publisher's database. So this is the situation, you see, if you talk of publisher. And similarly, I mean, National Digital Library is, of course, a great portal. But when you actually do the analysis, and that is again done by Dr. Narendra Kumar, so out of 737 titles which were searched on National Digital Library, I'm talking of course, textbooks. So only 1 book was available. So it sounds good on paper, but it actually works poorly on the ground. So Dr. Pooja, I'll end here. So once you give me the second opportunity, I'll throw some more light how we can become more agile.
Sure. Thank you for your thoughts, Dr. Parvez. So you talked about that, of course, that being a positive person, you have, more expectations and more, but then there is a difference between the ground reality and the way we show it on the papers, and there is a, difference between the two. So that's very correct. So now I would like to, again, go back to Dr. Rama. And I would like her to share her experience on her thoughts rather on would the focus of the libraries now would change that depending upon this COVID situation and rather post-COVID when we will start reopening. So would the focus of libraries be changed? And also I would like you to say your thoughts on, that generally is the focus on libraries of the academic institutions has been less by far, as Dr. Anil Kumar was saying. So I would like Dr. Rama you to share your thoughts on this.
Yeah, Dr. Pooja, thank you. Am I audible now?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, actually, I partially agree with Anil to some extent about the role of libraries that have been, diluted over a period of time. But as there is of course a complacency on the part of the public policy makers, the education leadership, and the other ecosystem, especially in a large country like India, having institutes of eminence, that the libraries are pushed to the periphery, and in terms of budget and resources, you get all. And I also agree with Anil that the evaluation of library never happens in any kind of ranking. The NAC says, okay, you must have this many books. You have, and you also have not changed the traditional perspective of a library, especially from the education leadership. So the traditional library functionality is what? I mean, issue and return, and probably having n number of books, n number of databases, current awareness service, and all. I think the whole library, the libraries, the functionalities, and the workflows, the collection, everything have gone a transformational change, which is not seen, especially in the eyes of the public policy makers or education leadership. And the gradual dilution of the libraries also happened because partially the blame also goes to the library leadership at national level, or maybe at individual library level, where the leadership is not driving the force, the workforce as to what is relevant in contemporary times. It is not like you are sitting at a desk and only your role is limited only to show the location, or rather going deeper than that. So in contemporary libraries, I think we don't have, we cannot have all the expertise that is needed to run in especially, I think, large research-based libraries. We see that in libraries, US and Europe, they actually have diverse expertise in the libraries. Actually, I was confronted yesterday with a query like, anybody in the library can assist me using the data for getting the unit level data from a datasets. That means I had a statistician in library for a long time, but I think it's very difficult also to retain them. You need a preservationist to think how your digital collections are managed. You need a copyright expertise. Your digital scholarship goes for a toss if you don't have that kind of skills to deal with the digital scholarship. You also need, as I said, copyright expertise. Like everything in digital is not so easy to manage and use because there are a lot of restrictions also come into play. So I think the usage, as you said, is not there to measure. We do measure the usage. We get how many users are actually using the remote access, how many journals are being used. We give the cost per usage evaluation every time to the library committee for justifying the retention of resources. Every resource that I purchase in a library, I see a complete increase over a period of time, and then try to control our budgetary expenditure. I think it requires a lot of professionalism, expertise, rather it is the cost-based usage. Sometimes it happens that you are not able to assess the intangible costs that are associated with especially evaluating a resource. So this kind of more of this expertise is required to make your library more vibrant, and then that is when the administration or the education leadership catches the attention that the kind of quality work that you do will never go unnoticed. As Anil was also pointing out that as a librarian, is it just good enough that we put everything on website with hyperlinks and then we say that okay, this is where you should go and use it? I think that is not the way. If you are expecting the optimum usage of your e-content, So there I said the other important thing which is missing in Indian libraries is the literacy skills. When you when you talk about information literacy, digital literacy, media literacy, I think the best that can be undertaken is by the librarian. So I think the orientation session are both voluntary. We are not giving any kind of education of the resources, like how to, identify a resource, how to
Leverage all these
evaluate a
kinds.
resource.
Yeah.
The information literacy is a very important aspect which is never taught also in Indian library, schools, which is very crucial for sustenance of the library.
Yeah, because the needs are changing, so we need to change with that, and we need to, have our, the strategies and policies based on the needs. But that is required from all the stakeholders, and everybody has to put their effort and contribute a bit to actually support libraries also to adapt to these kind of changes. Yeah, that's very aptly said, Dr. Rama. I would request Dr. Gaur to have his quick views on, how the focus of the libraries would be changing now, and on that kind of library gets from the, the institutions.
Sunny is right in many ways, but I differ on one point of view, that my saying is that libraries are required now more than ever. And libraries will be relevant always. Only thing we have to understand as a librarian, that role of libraries are changing. We have to understand our present roles and responsibilities, and we need to prepare according to the needs of the users. This complexity of information overload, we need to learn how to guide user about authenticity of fake information or most relevant information. I think nothing comes without efforts. The senior librarian has to give back to the profession by mentoring our colleagues where we are working, the colleagues which are connected with this. And this state is in almost every profession. I think so. We have to complain it, but at the same time we have to find out ways and means to how to come out. I'm very impressed with the young generation of librarians. Like after my leaving IMT, the way Akhtar has taken over the charge and maintained the continuity or the process of the change in a much better manner, I'm really impressed with that. When I talk about JNU, the deputy librarian, when I talk about Praveen Kumar, the way he is handling the situation. So, what I want to say that it is our responsibility to mentor and prepare young generation to take over the new roles and responsibility. That's number one. Number two, like the way like people at highest level are not aware. I call them library illiterates. I think somewhere down the line, we have to prove. एक कहावत है हिंदी में कि बगैर रोए तो बच्चे को भी माँ दूध नहीं पिलाती है. I think somewhere we are lacking the voice. We are not guiding them. We are not educating those people, and that can be done by good work and by bringing together. I think this profession is very much divided in terms of personalities, in terms of various kind of other egos. I think that is the real problem. We have quality professionals. There is no dearth of young professionals who want to take over that particular leadership role. Another important thing which I want to highlight in this current context, wherever you do a good work, people recognize it, people appreciate, people acknowledge the role of the libraries. This is a proven fact, and I have plenty of examples in this regard. In this panel, when we are talking about agile and resilient libraries, I have hundreds of examples of good librarians who are doing very hard work in this direction. And the institution over there are recognizing it. But somewhere, wherever there are gaps, we need to fill those gaps. We need to help others in bringing up. We need our library science school to really modernize and develop the courses which can, like I have started a course in postgraduate diploma in digital library and data management. What I'm teaching, it is not agency want to earn anything. My purpose was to develop the new generation of librarians. Whatever I have achieved in my professional career, I want to transfer that knowledge to these students who can be the good library professionals. So it is somewhere down the line, I strongly believe people like us who are in panel, and there are a number of others also, we have plenty of good and dynamic librarians, they should understand their roles, they should become a mentor, and if you take up this charge, I'm sure libraries will get their golden time again. And Ranganathan is no more, but Gandhi has never come back. But still, country is running, and we have all people who are doing great work. So have a faith in ourselves, have faith in our quality to do good job. I think that's a message I want to give.
I kind of really agree with you, Professor Gaur. Being the chairperson of library committee, I feel privileged to be associated with library, and I kind of agree with you that this is the time when libraries are needed the most. I really agree with this. And one more thing which you rightly said, that sometimes it is required also for the library leadership to make the the top leadership sensitize the requirements and sensitize the role and requirements of the library, so that things which sometimes may go unheard of can actually be taken care of. I really agree with that. I would now request Dr. Sri Kumar to have your thoughts on the changing focus of the library in the present situations. And what do you think about the focus of the academic institutions or the top leaderships towards library? Dr. Sri Kumar.
Thanks, Professor Pooja. So I think we are now in different corners as far as our thought processes are concerned. And I appreciate Anil for being vocal that libraries are going redundant and the libraries are no longer important and relevant. I mean, he has his own reasons, but if you look at Anil and his work in IIM Ahmedabad, it's actually a role model library that he has built up. And he has every appreciation from the community, not only from IIM Ahmedabad, elsewhere in the country. So he is endorsing the view that libraries are important. So, okay, now coming back to his point as libraries are not relevant, actually, I would have agreed to this right away, straightforward, if I was listening to him in a pre-COVID or what is called BC, which is called before COVID. Now we are AD, we are in AD after the disease. See, the situation here is that all our campuses are going online. At least for the near future, it is going to be online. And we don't know when we are going to come back to on campus. At least for a couple of terms, if not at least 1 term, 2 terms, definitely we are going to be online. So what are the implications for libraries? If the entire course is going to be online, the dependency on libraries will be increasing. So I think this is the time that we as librarians and information professionals to seriously look at supporting our faculty members in their course preparations and their learning management systems to be fed with relevant digital objects or articles or videos or whatever they are requiring, and being closely associated with them. So that is one aspect I would like to trust upon. At a time universities or our education institutions are going online, the dependency on library will multifold. It will become multifold, and then we cannot say that we were not prepared. Okay, now I have a small checklist for introspection as to whether we are future ready or at least present ready. So if Professor Pooja can allow me 1 more minute, I will read out those checklists.
Sure, sir. Please.
Yeah. So to match up with the current scenario, the present scenario, at a time we are not very sure, uncertain about the future, how is it unfolding before us, there should be a checklist by all of us as librarians. The first point I would like to put is actually, is the library's catalog online? And if so, make it accessible to the patrons. The second question is, does the library have a critical mass of e-resources? And if not, it is high time to build the digital collection. So there are n number of ways you can get, n number of places you can get the guidance. Does the library have a website or a portal? And if so, make it accessible to the patrons. Does the library provide patrons to engage in a chat mode communication with the library catalogs? If not, do it immediately. Does the library provide a ask a librarian facility in the library? If not, do it immediately. Then the next question is the e-resources under subscription got integrated and aggregated into the ERMS or portal? And if so, make it accessible to the patrons, because it will add value to what they are looking for. The next question is, does the library have a subject guide to help the users to navigate deep into each of their subject preferences and browse through the content relevant to their needs? And if so, make it accessible so that they can navigate seamlessly. And the next question is, do you have open access collections or of ebooks, e-journals, educational resources, that is open education resources, and other e-resources? If so, make it accessible to the patrons. Next one is, does the library host an institutional repository? If so, make it accessible. When I am saying if so, if you don't have it, please work on that. The 10th question which I would like to pose is actually, does the library have a web scale discovery service? And if so, make it accessible to the patrons. And the other one which I would like to ask is, does the library have VPN access or remote access or SSO, that is single sign-on remote login facility? And if so, make all the library resources accessible to the patrons. I have not touched upon the situation scenario, what we have to do when we are going to open up the libraries for patrons. You need to do a lot of things. I think already it has been told by our eminent panelists.
Yeah, so thanks, Dr. Srikumar, for this. And I really liked the way you described BC before COVID. That is something, a new this thing given to the abbreviation. So that is really nice. And your views are well taken, that we have to have some kind of more focused approaches. And I think, yes, Dr. Akhtar Parvez, I will come to Dr. Anil Kumar for his concluding remarks of what he thinks about the discussion on the thing which he brought. I would like Dr. Akhtar Parvez to share his thoughts first on the changing focus of the libraries in this BC before COVID, and now which will be having the post-COVID. And of course, I would also like to hear your views on the focus on libraries of the top leadership of the academic institutions. Dr. Akhtar Parvez, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Pooja, for allowing me more time. Now, I think, libraries, I feel, are our drawing rooms, okay? So the way we keep our drawing rooms in very decorated and very attractive, the same way we have to do for our libraries also. But at the same time, we should not be under any kind of illusion of normalcy in the vast majority of libraries and the library operations. But having said that, librarians have to lead by example, and the library staff have to be more sensitive towards the user service. And as Dr. Rama Patnaik said, processes are very, very important. See, unless we have proper flow processes, possibly, we will not be able to really increase the efficiency of our staff, which will obviously lead to better user service. And of course, I mean, as Dr. Sirikumar said, digital transformation is essential. But, having said that, you need money for digitally transforming your library. And as I said in my previous part also, that there has to be, if not the same, then this gap of funding has to be narrowed. And training of the staff is very, very important. Training and welfare of the staff, to work under these circumstances. Now, I see my staff here, who are very scared of coming to the library. So I think it is the librarian who has to build confidence in them by providing all kinds of support that is expected from the head of the department. The serious deficiency of infrastructure has to be removed from our libraries. Only possibly then we'll be able to provide the service. And as I already said that, gap in funding academic institutions has to be narrowed, if not eliminated. And every student, has to get equal opportunity in terms of access to knowledge and technology. And we cannot, build our libraries or design our libraries sustainably agile and resilient libraries for COVID, or say without COVID, unless, we have these, or we consider these points what I said into consider for our libraries. So I think this is what all what I wanted to say. Thank you, Professor Pooja.
Thank you, Dr. Parvez. Now I would like to go back to Dr. Anil Kumar. So, after a much thought-provoking thing which you have, discussed in the panel, now as Dr. Sri Kumar was saying, that you being a role model for so many librarians, coming from you that libraries do not have that kind of a space which they should have, might be a little disheartening for many. So, I would like some motivating remarks from you, Dr. Anil Kumar, on this.
Thank you, thank you for that comment you made. But actually, I think I'm not talking about individual examples. I told there are a few exceptional librarians. Some of them are in the panel also here. And the librarians are motivated. They would go ahead and do what is expected. But my concern is about libraries with the haves and have-nots. The have-nots is where we are not focusing on. That is my main issue. For example, Ramesh was saying that there are hundreds of librarians who are ready to take over leadership. I have been on a panel of many institutions, and we fail to find a good librarian. You go and ask any people who are, institutions who are trying to recruit leadership positions. It is extremely difficult to find people. And for Ramesh, if it is hundreds of librarians who are organizing events as good librarians, event managers are not librarians. And the issue is being academically sound, doing something that is relevant to your users there, and having to design systems which are focused on the user. It is not to propagate yourself that you become a librarian. And the checklist that Dr. Sri Kumar gave was a wonderful checklist. And I'll give you an evidence just here. Let us not talk in the air. All the criteria that he has given to be present ready, OPAC and institutional repository, website, chat service, ERMS, how many of the top ranked institutions in this country, their libraries are present ready? I will challenge you, at least 50% of the NRF ranked libraries, institutional libraries, don't have these facilities. So what are we talking about, right? Now, I am not saying that you take a pessimistic view and don't work on it. I am saying we should have the reality in picture, and this reality, what I am trying to visualize and picture and paint, is not for librarians, it is for the policymakers. I am not trying to say that librarians should be demotivated or what I am saying. I am trying to support the struggle. I'll give another very straightforward example. I think more than 50% of the university libraries in this country don't have librarians. How many IITs that have been set up recently? I can tell you for sure, it will be more than 90% of the new IIMs and IITs set up don't have full-fledged librarians. They call them as a designation librarian, but they don't actually follow the librarian norms as per the MHRD rules, right? So if we are talking about all goody things, it is relevant for institutions, elite institutions like ours, it is fine. But I am saying if you're talking about overall libraries in India in perspective, then I think it doesn't paint a good picture. And what I am trying to say is more for the policymakers, for the educationists, for the educational managers, for the trustees to think about this. Because it is not because I'm a librarian I'm arguing for this. I am saying because it is important to have quality education being offered in this country, we have to focus on quality libraries. You cannot provide quality education without quality libraries. So I don't want to demotivate anyone. There are examples of hardworking librarians who are working, but they don't have the ecosystem to do it. Just to, before ending, what I wanted to say about this is the role of libraries in the future. What I foresee is they'll become more of, places or spaces where knowledge will be created rather than just knowledge being transferred. They'll become more of a role where they will be partnering the users in their pursuit of academic and research knowledge rather than supporting them. And information disseminators, which was the main role for the library, is now slowly moving towards becoming incubators, where you can actually have startups. Nobody discusses about the role of libraries in a startup life cycle. There are so many startups who don't have access to right market knowledge. Business school libraries are the right places where they can be nurtured. And not only students of their institutions, anybody from the neighborhood should be able to access it. And the last point I want to make is libraries are showcases of technology for institutions. They showcase technology adoption of an institution. they also showcase the knowledge that is generated or created in the institution. So they have a very important role. I am not saying there is no role. I am saying they are not being provided that opportunity to fulfill their role. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dr. Anil Kumar, for sharing your views on this. So, a major key takeaway from this discussion would be that in this pre-COVID era, or you say post-COVID era, the library has its own importance, which is there for the users. Library is the backbone of any kind of an academic institute, and without library, the academic institutes cannot survive. The users have utmost dependence on library. But yes, as Dr. Anil Kumar said, the kind of importance the library has, it should be given that kind of an importance from the policymakers, from the leadership, so that this important function of any academic place flourishes even more than what we have right now with us. So I think the great panel discussion, because any panel discussion which does not leave us with a thought-provoking thing is not that we are able to generate some thoughts which are really important to be thought about. That's with that thing we would start taking the questions from the participants that we have. So we have tried to collate the question because of course we had some similar questions coming. So I would start with that, and although the participants have not as such directed the question to a specific panelist, so any of the panelists can volunteer to answer. The first question coming in is how public libraries are going to survive in this COVID-19 pandemic. Can I request any of you to answer that, please?
Yeah, I can answer.
Yeah.
There is no doubt that the state of public library is even worse than what minister have discussed the state of libraries. The reason being that somewhere what Anil has very right pointed, those policy planners have never given any attention in developing public library system. Give you an example, we have smart cities project by Government of India. If you ask the government in smart cities, there is any public library provision? No. Is there any public libraries in entire NCR region in Gurgaon or Noida? There is no. So somewhere down the line, I think public librarians need good training in how they can, because they have really a problem of infrastructure and resources, how they can promote good library access to open access libraries and resources. And in that way, there is a plenty. They need to be guided about the availability of the resources. Second thing, I think somewhere we need to really encourage use of other libraries as a public libraries, because Anil has said that many libraries, including research libraries and many academic libraries, users are not available. You give that status to those libraries. Just like, give you an example, in the US, there are many university libraries have been given status of public libraries. So somewhere down the line, I think we need to have some kind of plan to strengthen public library, which is in a very bad shape. Somebody else would like to add anything to that?
I just wanted to add one sentence is I have been actually propagating this idea to MHRD also, but nobody seems to care, is all the publicly funded institutions should become public libraries, because you are giving them land free, you are giving tax concessions, you are giving all sorts of things to the publicly funded institutions, and their libraries are they inherit a good legacy, they have good collections, they have good decent staff, but the question is of underutilization. Maybe the government can pay an X amount a month or an annum to that institution and get some really deserving Mofussil area, rural area students or semi-urban area students to come and read in that library. Because there's a huge dearth of reading space in our cities and villages. So why don't we use this? There is space which is underutilized. There are no spaces. So the best thing is to actually collaborate and do it in that manner, right?
Yes, that's a very apt thing. So the next question that we can take is that how can we manage adapting to library space that reduces the risk associated with the pandemic while we'll open post-COVID?
See, for the space part, I think, can I answer?
Yes, sure, sir.
Yeah, see, for the space part, there are some social distancing norms that you have to follow. So your capacity to accommodate people is going to go down drastically. It will become almost 50% of what is required. And not many libraries are endowed with a lot of spaces. So that's going to be a challenge. But as I said, it is connected. Libraries are operating in the ecosystem of education. Education is the first mother institution which is going to get affected by the online learning or whatever. So the gearing, as Dr. Rama and others were saying, is to go into the digital mode, right? So I believe that in future the hybrid mode will be more, relevant, where physicality will also be required, online will also be required, and the space is going to be a problem. And we had, for all these years, ignored the physical space of a library, thinking that it is not required. In fact, when we restored our library, there was a debate of having a bookless library, and some libraries were thinking of having a spaceless library, everything on the cloud library. That's all ridiculous things. It cannot happen that way. Physicality of a library is required. Maybe we have to follow post-COVID social distancing norms, safety of the staff, safety of the users, both there. But the challenges are many there, because many of the large libraries are centrally air conditioned. They don't have the proper filters. You have to disinfect it. It's major health issue that we have not thought about yet. But I think we will cross the bridge when we come to it. We'll be able to do it.
I think,
Yeah.
Pooja, if I just can add,
Sure, sir.
to arrive at a reasonable number of students who can come to the library at one particular time, maybe you can divide the public space by 4 so that you get an idea, how many people you have to actually allow at one point of time in the library.
Yes. That's very correct. The next question that we have from the participants is that, do you really see a financial burden adopting the agile approach post-COVID?
Definitely yes. I think there's no question. Definitely yes. See, that's what I have been saying. If you have to really strengthen your collection, obviously you'll have to strengthen mainly the digital collection. The 3 panelists who are sitting today, they come from IIM. Okay, so they have no problem. There's no dearth of money. But when you go to central universities or even colleges, I mean, there is no how they are going to build digital collection. See, we have to think several times when we have to decide about select the products. You see, which one to buy. You see, maybe both are important. Then finally we have to select one. I think there's no doubt. I mean, a lot of money is required.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Dr.
also,
Ramar,
I think there's
Yeah.
one thing in this agile and resilient designing. Finance is only one part of it. Second part, as I said, is the leadership of the manpower. We have not invested in people in libraries. If you do that, I don't think you need such a large cost to do. Because if you look at the trend now, even in this COVID-19 situation, most of the publishers opened up their content, right? The challenge is in identifying the right content for the users, where again the librarians could have done it. Right? There are a lot of open access content coming out. There are a lot of institutional repositories. Government funded projects, all the reports are free of cost. It is more of investment in librarians which is going to pay you off rather than anything else. But having said that, investment in technology, you have no other alternative. You have to invest.
I very much appreciate both Dr. Parvez and Anil. I think money is required, but there are a large amount of open content, open educational resources specifically available. It is the onus of the librarians to lay their hands in those, vast treasure trove of information and bring it to the institute. So I think investment in human resources, their valuable time, quality time in setting up such systems are very, very important. Of course, money is important, yes, but it is not the only one.
Both are equally important.
Both are equally important.
That's right. Akhtar, can we have the next question? Akhtar, can you please tell us?
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. We have as world is planning for reopen very soon, what would be the precautions procedure to be followed by libraries?
Already answered, no?
Yeah, that I think has been answered already. Akhtar, there was a specific question about the big book issue return. Can you ask that?
what is the best criteria for the book in issue return as they may be infected?
Can I answer if you allow?
Yes, please, sir. Please, can.
I think, one is, of course, the self-check-in system, but I'm sure 90% of the libraries will not have it. Okay, number one. When the books come back to the library, I think we should leave them or put them in quarantine for about at least, I feel, at least 12 hours, not more. And then, those books can be reused. And of course, you have to disinfect the halls. Of course, you cannot put any spray on books because it might damage the books. But I think the best thing is to put books in quarantine for about 12 hours, or if possible, maybe 24 hours.
Actually, the rules are, the guidelines for this are not very clear. Like IFLA, ALA, everybody has a different rule. NEDC says 24 hours. Somebody is saying 16 hours. And you also go to the actual medical profession and their guidelines, they say on cardboard, it can stay for even 6 to 9 days, the virus. So it's actually not advisable to say what is the best, because even this is something that nobody knows. It is just by guesswork everybody is saying. The best is to stop issue return of physical books, which some libraries have adopted in the US for a few weeks or until the conditions are more controllable. Secondly, being more safe and cautious, having more of washing your hands, using gloves for the staff, using the mask, and sensitizing the users to actually say that this can happen. It is not 100% foolproof that you quarantine a book for even 24 hours and it doesn't transmit. Actually, there is no evidence. So it is an unknown thing that is happening. It is better to be cautious rather than be foolish later.
Anil, in addition to that, I think we have a technology to help us. I agree that we are not certain how long it will live on the surface, but ultraviolet equipments by using those sanitizers and other ways, we can protect.
Voice is not good.
I think, Ramesh, I think that will damage the books. I think rays that will damage the books.
No, there are technology coming which is protecting. Just yesterday, I got certain. Now, I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you're audible.
Technology available. Instead of, I'm not talking about the alcohol-based sanitizers. I'm talking about there are other technologies available for sanitization. So I think we need to look both the options. Guidelines, as rightly said, there are a lot of guidelines available. And I think till libraries are closed, we keep watching those guidelines from IFLA or other bodies. And in India also, a lot of good libraries have prepared instructions. So you keep watching those international, national instructions. And
for instance, Ramesh, for instance, in your library, how many issue returns happen in a day? Per day?
Actually, our very special library issue is not in, problem is not in our case library. I'm talking about problem is like academic libraries, college or university.
So, for example, in an engineering library, within 1 hour, 700 issues happen in an engineering library,
true.
decent library.
Yeah.
So, how do you handle it? And you quarantine karoge, to where are the copies available, right? There's a huge problem, physical ka. So better move to online content where textbooks and all are required.
That is the best way. That is the best way. That is the best way.
Yeah, so we have one last question, although I'm not able to decode the question, but this question is coming again and again. Maybe a panelist can help me in understanding the question and then answering it. How librarian can play an important role to literate users on COVID and on academic literature vicinity?
Yeah, so for example, there are libraries who have started special services for COVID. Like at our place, they have started compiling invitation for papers, right, and research projects and grants on COVID. Now, these sort of services, which are beyond regular services, can be compiled and disseminated to your users, so that research opportunities, writing papers, and now there is a trend that everybody wants to work in this area of COVID. There are finance people working, there are OBHR people working, there are marketing people working, their economics and finance policy, public policy people working. So every faculty is interested. If the library can get their act together and probably compile such useful information on one platform, it becomes very easy for the faculty. I think that is one of the things. Maybe others have other ideas.
Yeah. So, Dr. Rama, can we have your views on this?
Yeah, actually, what Anil said, all the COVID-related information on specific industries, that is what the academic faculty is looking for. We developed a blog. We also developed COVID-related effect on various industries, which is widely used by the students. And also, the other thing which I would like to add is having some kind of WebEx sessions for the sake of students, calling the experts on a particular industry, and then getting the WebEx related information. COVID-related information is disseminated on WebEx sessions. We did that on the demand from the students, like how the retail industry, the IT industry, and the other specific industries, which were airline industry, how they were affected and what is the future for them. So this is something that academic libraries can still do, take out the current content from all the resources, put it at one place so that so the faculty and the students don't have to go to individual databases and get the information. And this is what we did even just at the beginning of the lockdown. And we do it, the current content is posted on day-to-day basis about the COVID information. Dr. Pooja?
Yeah, so that's great, Dr. Rama. So I think we had a very good discussion, a very thought-provoking discussion we have had today. And so many thoughts came in, and I'm sure our participants would have really got benefited by listening to all the eminent participants, panelists that we have today. I thank all of you for taking out the time and joining us, and educating us, educating all the participants more about the focus of libraries in the post-COVID and the COVID era. Some other very thought-provoking things that we have discussed today. I thank everybody take out the time and join us today here on this platform. I now invite Dr. Akhtar Hussain, if you can just give the vote of thanks so that we can formally close the discussion.
Yeah, thank you all for such informative discussion. I hope all library professionals will be benefited with this. It's time to thank all people who supported us for this panel discussion. On behalf of IMT Ghaziabad, I am thankful to all national and international participants who have joined this insightful panel discussion. I am grateful to our esteemed moderator, Professor Pooja Agrawal, and panelists, Professor Ramesh C. Gaur, Dr. M.G. Sri Kumar, Dr. Anil Kumar, Dr. Akhtar Parvez, and Dr. Rama Patnaik for demonstrating their views during the panel discussion. I am thankful to our director, Dean Academics, GM Administration, and Professor Pooja Agrawal for IMT Ghaziabad for their kind support and guidance. Special thanks are due to Mr. Inder Singh, Senior IT Manager, IMT Ghaziabad, and Mr. Joy Sharma. Without his technical support, holding of this panel discussion is not impossible. I also wish to express my gratitude to our administration, Mr. Rajkishore Pandey, Titika Verma, our creative designer, and all staff officer and faculty of IMT Ghaziabad. And last but not the least, thank you for my team of library. Thank you so much to everyone. Stay safe. Take care. Take very good care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
See you all soon. Bye bye.
It's been a
Take
pleasure.
care.
Thank you.